Alright everybody, today we're making focaccia bread, and this was so freaking good, and it was pretty easy. Yeah, it's time consuming because you gotta wait for the dough to rise, you gotta make the dough and let it sit overnight, but honestly it wasn't that hard and it was so good and worth it. So here we go. I mixed up a bunch of different recipes and put it all together to make this recipe, best of both worlds, easy and delicious. So you're gonna go in first with 2 cups of regular flour. This is just what I use, but I guess you could use something called flour bread. I don't know. I just used regular flour. So 2 cups of flour. And then you're going to go in with a teaspoon of kosher salt, whisk it together. And then you're going to see me put in a bigger bowl a cup of warm water and put it in a separate bowl. Then you're going to go in with a 1 1/8 teaspoon of instant yeast. And then you're going to put in a half teaspoon of granulated sugar, and I said that funny. And then you're going to mix it up, and you're going to add that to your flour mixture, and then you're going to want to mix it together with a wooden spoon for a little bit. Now you don't have to really fold the dough. The recipe didn't say to do that, but I did because I just felt like it seemed kind of necessary. So I just like rolled it into a bit of a ball and left it alone, which you see me doing now. I kneaded it a little bit, folded it up so it was clean and neat and in a ball. And now we're going to put some plastic wrap on it, and we're going to set it in the fridge to let it sit overnight, 8 hours to up to, overnight. When you wake up and you're ready to play with it, there you go. So this is the next morning. We're going to uncover it. It's looking real pretty, all puffy, and it's grown, and she's looking good, and she's ready to get all dressed and put her makeup on. Okay, so you're going to just get a deep pan. The recipe said to use a round one, but it doesn't really matter. Just use a deep pan. Oil it up. Make sure it's good and oiled up, obviously. Excuse my terrible pan. I gotta get a new one. Alright, so you're going to want to tuck the ends in with the dough and just work it around the pan. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to spread out completely because obviously it's dough and it's still trying to hold its shape from what it was before, but we're going to let it sit for 2 hours in this pan, and it's going to rise. And don't worry about it filling up the pan either, because once it bakes, it's going to fill up the pan no matter what. So just spread it out the best you can. And we're going to cover it up. And like I said, it's going to sit for 2 hours just on the counter. And while we're waiting, we're going to set the oven to 250. And we're going to throw in like 3 handfuls of cherry tomatoes. And then you can use real, like fresh garlic shallots. But I just use wet minced garlic because that's what I had. I want to use it. I'm just being quick and cheap about it, I guess. I don't really know. But it still came out really freaking good. So then you're going to add some olive oil and fill it up to the top. And I'm using dried rosemary, but obviously fresh is best. Do what you have, do what works. And then you're going to roast it for 2 hours at 250. They're all done. They're looking good. And our dough has risen, and she's nice and fluffy and yummy and bubbly. And she's ready. So we're going to take that mixture that we just roasted for 2 hours and drizzle that olive oil on top all the way across. Don't use too much oil. The oil is really just there to make it like a golden layer on the top of the bread. So don't go too crazy with the oil. I might have done too much. I poured a little bit out afterwards because I kind of got carried away. Okay, so you're going to spread out your tomatoes over the top. I didn't use all of my tomatoes because I thought, oh, this is too much. Definitely use them because that's where the flavor is. Spread out fresh mozzarella in chunks all across the top. Add sea salt and extra rosemary is what I used. And I saved that oil mixture and put it in an oil container of some kind. That oil mixture is going to be nice to have for dipping bread or even sauteing. It's just nice to keep. So you're going to set your oven to 450, and then as soon as it's done and ready for the bread, once you pop the bread in, drop it down to 425, and you're going to cook for 22 to 24 minutes or until it's golden brown on the top. She's all done. She's pretty. She's crispy and nice and delicious on the top. Oh, beautiful. She's beautiful. Oh my goodness. And with the mozzarella, tomatoes, this focaccia bread was so good, and I honestly did not expect it to come out so nice. And like I said before, I kind of combined a couple of recipes together because there was one recipe that was specifically for the focaccia bread, no topping at all, and another recipe where it was like, oh my god, roast the garlic and tomatoes and everything and keep it for weeks in the fridge and ferment it and all this stuff. And I was like, that's not happening. We're just going to do it this way, and it was the best of both worlds. Parmigiano Reggiano. Oh my goodness. Cheese is expensive, I know, holy shit. But it's worth it. You know, use a different kind of cheese, that's fine. It's just for dipping. But, you know, that's where it's at. That's where the cheese comes into please. Alright, so I'm cutting it up and getting excited because she's freaking looking good. And voila. There she is. She's delicious. You guys, this was honestly pretty easy and definitely worth it. It only lasted 1 hour between Seth and I. Excuse how ridiculously gross I am when I'm eating. um, but yeah, definitely save this recipe, you guys. It's so freaking good. I know everyone's on a sourdough kick, but I'm Italian and I wanted focaccia bread because I know I love focaccia bread. Thanks for keeping up with me and putting up with me, and you know, let's see if I continue with these YouTube videos. Thanks, guys.